We are going to get started in on chapter 9 here. This is what I consider one of the more information-laden units or chapters that we have. A lot of people, a lot of ideas. The Enlightenment is a door opener time period in European history because this starts us really into the modern era. We've been building and building and building up to this, but now we are getting to where we're getting modern thought. We've had these revolutions overseas, and now we need to bring them back home to Europe. Because if these ideas can work in America, if they can work in the colonies of all places, they can definitely have an impact here. So we need to first look at, though, like, what is the impetus for this? Why is this starting out the way it does? And who are our people behind all of this? So, the Enlightenment, there's no real theme, like one major theme behind the Enlightenment. It's all different people, all different stuff. We're going to look at new theories on government, new theories on religion, new theories on acceptance. We're going to talk about women. How are women seen? How do they participate? This is all an offshoot also. Like I said, we've been building to this for so long. We see the scientific revolution come back and visit us again. We see ideas of faith come back and visit us again. Ideas of church and state come back again. And so again is one of these deals. But we really open up to new stuff. So, Enlightenment. It is quite the period. Here we have... Oh, could somebody grab the lights, please? Oh, thank you, sir. Here we have a picture of a salon. Not a hair salon type of deal, but a salon, a living room. A mix a little bit between salon and saloon. Remember the nerd groups that we talked about during the scientific revolution when the universities wouldn't keep up with science, and so they made their own discussion groups? Well, the Enlightenment was kind of the same deal. Enlightenment thinkers were not normally college professors. They were not normally lecturers. They were thinkers first and foremost, writers and thinkers and doers, and they liked to get together and share their ideas with other people. And so they did that, and they would often get together in buildings that they would build for their own good, kind of like the nerd groups. But another famous place that they would get together were coffee houses. I think of the Enlightenment folks a lot like the characters on Friends, where they'd sit around on their couches, drink their coffee, and chat about what's on the top of their mind. And they'd debate and have discussions and speakers and listen and just have all of these new ideas out there in coffee houses. Or women would often host get-togethers where smart people would come together and chat. And people would listen. And maybe one day they'd have a theme, but other days they wouldn't. And people would just show up and chat. And so this is a picture of one of the great salons here. And you've got, like, it's pictured on page 311 in your textbook. Women were socialists. Women were not socialists, socialites. Yes, they were socialists. They wanted a new government. But they were socialists. Socialites. Oh my gosh, I just did it again. They were socialites, and they liked to have people around. They had wealth. They had connections. They knew the big important people. And so they'd be like, hey, I know this big group of people, and I know this one. Let's bring them together and see what happens when they chat. And so they would get together and just do that, chat. It would have been interesting to listen to. I think just sit back and listen to these folks debate and discuss things. But some of the major people that really began this concept were two names that are familiar to us, one of which is Isaac Newton. And we talked about this guy. We had, a bit of a fan day for him and his other scientists at the beginning of the scientific revolution, where we're like, their brains are so smart. How do they know this stuff? How can they do this stuff? And his laws of universal gravitation show the power of the human mind, where, I'm dropping things and I'm jumping around the room and we're like, how does he figure this out? How does he even start to figure this out? And so we have this concept of, we have these really smart people. You don't have to be in your bubble. You don't have to be just in your realm. You can do your discussions. You can do your examinations and share them and show how smart you are and be proud of it. He encouraged natural philosophers to approach nature directly. Now, if we believe, the wives' tale where he was sitting under the tree and an apple fell and he's like, why did that fall? Well, observe nature in its prime location. Observe nature how it's supposed to be. And you're going to get answers that you want. And he insisted upon empirical rationalization to check rational explanation. What is empiricism again? Have a good night. Check you later. What is empiricism? Yes, sir.
No, like use the scientific method.
Yep, use the scientific method. Make your hypothesis, do your testing, write your conclusion. Did I meet what I wanted to do? And if not, do it again. Figure it out. What went wrong? And fake it till you make it, basically, is the idea behind the scientific method. Keep experimenting, keep learning. But he insisted upon that you can't just believe, you can't just see it once and go. You have to test and retest and retest to make sure that you are true. The other one guy is John Locke. He wasn't a scientist per se. We're doing experiments, but he was a thinker. And one of his other ideas that we mentioned in the Scientific Revolution unit, but it is more apparent here, is the idea that humans are a blank page, a tabula rasa. You come into the world knowing nothing and everything is put upon you. And your brain is written. You are given a brain, but what your brain knows and what your brain understands is given to you through your life experiences and your lessons. And he says that, it shapes your character. It doesn't just shape your brain and what you know, but it shapes who you are. What kind of person are you is by what you've experienced in life. And I think that there's a huge seed of truth there from what I think personally, or what I see personally in people, is that it's all where you come from. And you can't know any different unless you're taught different. So we can't blame some of the cultural problems, because if you grow up thinking that that's correct, how do you know any different? We had a conversation like this earlier in my Honors American class of kids at KKK rallies today dressed in little mini KKK robes. Because that's what their parents believe. So how can you fault the child for growing up that way to be a KKK member? That's all they knew. Unless they're exposed to something different, and he's all for this. And he rejected the idea that sin permanently follows humans. You can come back from sin, he said. You can come back. It doesn't have to be a mark forever. It doesn't have to permanently change you. And that you can take charge of your own destiny. Your future is yours. It's not already planned out. Make your choices. Go nuts. So we have these two guys, and this is the idea that your brain is out there, your brain is power. Keep questioning, keep asking, what if? What if? Keep asking, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so that's where we get to the Enlightenment. These thinkers that aren't given boundaries. They're not told you are only going to do this. They're allowed to do whatever they darn well please, within reason. And the results they get is incredible. So we have, and Britain is one of the great places for this, because they have a lot of toleration. With the Glorious Revolution and the rules that were put into place for this limited monarchy, this constitutional monarchy, representative monarchy, it's a great thing. They have religious toleration, except for Unitarians and Roman Catholics. But Roman Catholics have always been a bit, frowned upon since Henry VIII, so that's kind of understandable. And Unitarians is one of those faiths, a smaller faith that is also frowned upon across the European continent. They have freedom of speech and press. If you are allowed to write what you want and you're not going to get punished for it unless you're doing something illegal, that is hugely freeing. These thinkers and writers and doers can do and think and write and publish, and they're going to be safe. Also, freedom of speech. They can get together at salons. They can get together at coffee houses and chat about their ideas. They will be safe. So, of course, these new ideas are going to flourish here. A limited monarchy, a king is not controlling all the shots. So, there's room there for people to do what they want. And then the court protects citizens from arbitrary government action. You cannot just be picked up and arrested because the person feels like you should be arrested. You got to have due cause. So, again, we have it open there. This can happen in England. Not so in other areas until the government catches up with the people. But in England, it definitely can flourish. And then, boom, back to my man. Everything comes back to Gutenberg. Yes?
So with freedom of the press in England, how come John Wilkes was
Because he went too far. He went into that libel, that seditious libel, where you can say what you want as long as you don't cross that border. It's not like an anarchy type freedom of press where you can say and do whatever you want. You can say and do whatever you want as long as you're not writing something incorrect. You're labeling somebody as doing something that they didn't actually do, or that accusing them of a crime they're not guilty of.
So total.
Not total, but much more than anywhere else. Print culture. Why does this happen? Because we can publish. Because people are educated. Because people can read. They can pick up the books. Boom. It comes back to Gutenberg again. But in all seriousness, this is why the Enlightenment takes off. These writers are writing their books. They're writing their papers. They're publishing in their scientific journals. And people are reading it and saying, hey, okay, I get your point. And I like it. Now let's take it one step further. What if we think about this? And so they can go into the archives. They can read what people wrote. And they can move on from it. And it is a hugely, hugely, huge reason why the Enlightenment occurs when it does. It's a perfect storm. People using these thoughts, the government is allowing it. It's this period of freedom and openness until governments try to crack down again, as we're going to see. But we've got just tons of stuff that's just increasing in number, that the printing press is doing its job. We've got many more books than ever before, journals, magazines, and even daily newspapers. So little things. People are, maybe they aren't interested in science, but people are reading the daily news. They're seeing what's going on in their world. They're not completely sheltered anymore. Huge impact. But religious versus secular is a question. We're getting a lot of books now that aren't focused on religion, or it's not trying to reconcile science to religion. And so when we have that, people, especially the people who are more religious, who are a little bit more clung to the old ways, they are getting a little scared. And they're saying, this isn't quite right. We need to bring religion back, because without religion, we're nowhere. And so print culture, though, you don't have to print just religious stuff. You can print whatever comes across your desk. And with that, writers are realizing we don't have to write from a religious bend. We can write whatever, as long within reason. We got two major advancements here, two major people that we need to talk about in terms of print culture: Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. They wrote about the value of writing, why it's important to write, why it's important to read. And so people were reading that and saying, oh, it is important. It's not important that it's not good that only the wealthy people are reading and writing. We need to get middle class people reading and writing, because reading means understanding. Reading means advancement. And then we've got two guys that make it big because they are writers. They are the Stephen Kings of their day. Whatever they wrote, people picked up. It didn't matter how boring it was. Alexander Pope of England and Voltaire of France. Two major writers made a ton of money using print culture to its best advantage. So people are not only doing this stuff, but they are writing about it. And they are doing great things with their writing. People are reading it, getting ideas, and moving on from there. And another big thing on this is public opinion. When people can read, they form an opinion. And now, because it is this perfect storm, we have people that are willing to express themselves. The collective effect on political and social life of viewpoints discussed in the home, workplaces, and places of leisure. What do you talk about when you get together? Perfect thing of this is that silly dress a couple weeks ago. Is it blue and black? Is it white and cream?
What did you think it was?
I saw it white and cream until I saw it live, and then I'm like,
Two different colors.
you're kidding.
No, it was black. It was black.
Are they now making it two different colors?
Yeah, they're making it in white and gold now
Because of the deal. So there we have it. And for the first time, because public opinion, people are reading, people are making... People are making opinion. They're expressing their opinion. The government has to answer to that opinion. The government has to answer to the people. Why are you doing that? Why did you make that law? Why did you make that rule? What's going on? And the government has to explain itself. Up until now, they could just say, because I said so, because I want to. Now, it's not enough. However, this is happening in the West. The more east we go, the more the rulers of these countries are taking away people's right to an opinion. They're censoring books, they're confiscating titles, and imprisoning authors. This is another index of forbidden books. It's not okay to voice your opinion because they don't want their people rising up against their government. How many of you have seen V for Vendetta? The people should not be afraid of their government. The government should be afraid of their people. This is the start of this here. Huge. Because this leads into the French Revolution. This leads into the revolutions of the 1820s and 30s, where the people are rising up because they can read and have an opinion. And they can tell their government in good words, you are not providing the right services, you are not treating us well. So we will pick up with that tomorrow.